Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's Monday, the 19th of July, 2021. It's 25 to 4 and it's 30 degrees. It's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. There's no wind either. Like my face is all shiny. So yeah, I'm sweating. I think it's also Freedom Day today. Apparently, like we're no longer going to be in a lockdown. So that's in the UK though. Okay, so this is going to be the second part. So I'm going to be just going through the comments on the part two of my mental illness video. So because Keith has commented nearly 20 times, and I've replied to some of his comments as well. But I think it's important to just like acknowledge and read and um it kind of gives food for thought. So yeah. Um. Also, I wanted to add regarding the part one, regarding reading the comments from the part one video. What was it? Yeah, it was something about awareness. So when it comes to like having mental health issues or mental illness or those sorts of problems, one of the things that I've noticed is that, and I think a few of my counselors noticed that as well, is that you're too aware. You're too aware of everything that's going on. You're hypersensitive, hyper vigilant, hyper aware. You just it's kind of it kind of makes me wonder because you've heard of the moral maxim ignorance is bliss, which is like, do you choose ignorance or do you choose hyper awareness? Um, Also, the other thing that I wanted to add regarding the awareness, being too aware of something which can lead to causing problems or having illnesses and that sort, is I was listening to someone who was talking about going to Alcoholics Anonymous, and what he learned from going to Alcoholics Anonymous about the people who go there is that they're not like deadbeat people. They're not like people who sort of just waste a life away. From his perspective, what he took away from it is that the people that were suffering from alcoholism or and they were using that service was that they were highly intelligent people, or some of them were, according to him. They were highly intelligent, like successful, but like they're too aware of their problems. Well, not too aware of their problems. They were just too aware of everything that was going on around them, and the only way for them to cope was through the bottle, which is just to drink their problems away because of how aware they were, or just how intelligent they were. So it's something about awareness that I wanted to bring up, and how being too aware can actually create difficulties when burying your head in the sand is actually, um I guess playing that being dumb can be good as well, like pretending to be dumb, like pretending to not, just to ignore. I guess it's choosing what to ignore and choosing what not to ignore. Okay, so I'm gonna read these. I've already read or read one of the comments before, but like after Keith, like I've got like 16 other comments. So, okay, I'll read Vasi's comment again. The early age crisis you mentioned is referred to as identity rests role confusion, something I worry that is going to become a growing issue with both people being isolated due to pandemic restrictions and the demonizing of young men by social media. I think I said something about that in one of my previous videos. Um, yeah, I'll probably come back to that one. So now let's go on to Keith. Keith William Wendorf. I'll grab this after watching part one. Watch the start, and it's so true, mate. If you don't understand what is happening to you, how you meant to tell someone else. Yeah, that's so. In the video is I struggled to understand what was going when I was 17, 18. I was going through some of the worst times of my life, in terms of my mental illness. What was so bad about it was that my lack of understanding of what was happening. I had no understanding whatsoever. Yeah, so it was just, um, yeah, it was bad. Second comment is well done, good sir, for coming out, as they would say. Yes, let's kill the stigma. We are people the same as anyone else, but are actually probably more sane. That's true. So some people that seek out counseling or therapy or are in therapy are actually, I get like I don't want to talk about myself. I don't know how to talk about this. Let's create like a fictional scenario. You have like a dysfunctional environment. You got like a heroin addict. You got an abusive mother or father. You got someone abusing you, or you're being bullying at school, or like you're having problems at work as well. However, what the thing is, you can see how the self-destructive or self-sabotaging behavior of your immediate peers around you, or whoever it is you're being around, but they are oblivious to it, and you're aware of it, and because you're the immediate recipient, their behavior impacts on you. So you don't learn how to cope with that kind of behavior or being in that kind of environment. So you end up going to see the counselor, but the problem doesn't lie with you because you're aware of where the problem is coming from or where the difficulty is coming from. And the people that do need the help, they're not getting the help because they're either in denial or they don't want to go get the help, or they just think that they're okay. I guess that's the same with denial. So, which is kind of bad in a way, or which is kind of bad because like you could get put on medication. I was thinking about the meds that I'm on, antipsychotics and antidepressants. Like you could be on meds for the wrong reasons. I heard about how doctors, well, general practitioners, GPs, were prescribing antidepressants willy nilly to anyone, which is that's not how medication works. You take medication for a reason. You don't prescribe it because you don't take morphine because you've scratched your knee or something like that, or you've like got a splinter or something like that. No. Yeah. So um, it is highly possible that quite a few people that are in the mental health that are using mental health services are actually people that are more sane, that are more level headed. Oh, but they're being they're like the balancer or the mediator to the people that are actually dysfunctional, that are not going to get the help, that are actually destroying themselves. Okay, so third comment is even when you articulate, even when you can articulate, it is sometimes by the wrong doctor or CPN. I don't know what CPN is short for. Considered rational behavior, which goes against the mental health symptoms. Even when you can articulate, it is sometimes by the wrong doctor or considered rational behavior, which goes against. Okay, so I guess that makes sense because like if you're mentally ill, if you're having severe mental illness, it's like a stereotype. Like you're not supposed to be rational, or you're not supposed to be functioning in the world. You're not supposed to be able to be self sufficient or self sustaining. For example, I know someone that hallucinates and has auditory hallucinations and visual hallucinations. They have a dodgy back, and they've got quite a few health problems as well. But they can hold down a job. They can function in life without any deterioration in their cognitive abilities. But they still have these multitude of physical and mental health issues. And there are quite a few people like that. I'd say I'm sort of like that. I think it's called like a functioning mental fun. I don't know what the word is actually, what the correct terminology is. Yeah, but quite a lot of people out there like they are functioning, they're holding down a job. They've got a family, they've got kids. Celebrities are like that. I guess celebrities and athletes and Olympic athletes as well. Like they're good examples because like you can look at their life and you can see that okay, they've hit the bucket, they've hit bottom. They're drugs and they're in rehabilitation. They've tried committing suicide or something like that. The news is talking about it, but like they're able to function. They're able to like do their work or do their job or whatever it is. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah. And I don't care who knows I suffer from mental health issues, as getting it out there is the only way to get rid of the stigma. Too many people hide it away because it's frowned upon or they get bullied or harassed. I have a mate who hates admitting he has mental health issues for those reasons. I don't think I'm not aware of being bullied for having mental health issues. I am aware of being bullied and harassed and that sort, but not for my mental health. Being bullied at school, yeah, that's like, yeah, that happens. But yeah, yeah, I don't think I don't like I didn't like admitting that I have mental health issues or mental health problems, or however you want to put it, because every time I fill out like an application, like a job application or my college application or another application like home or something like that, when you're filling out forms like that, they ask you and do you have any health issues like mental on like schizophrenia or anxiety, and it's like, or depression, or and it's like, oh, I don't consider myself to have a disability, because the only disability you could have is having the wrong attitude, which is to not help yourself. So, but I think it was really hard to admit it. The only this comes back to getting a diagnosis. I think the closest I've ever gotten to a diagnosis is like being either borderline psychotic or having depression with psychosis. And another time I did have a psych evaluation, like a psychiatric evaluation assessment, and on it said I had paranoid schizophrenia. But I never ever wanted to talk about it and never ever wanted to admit it, because being paranoid schizophrenia, it has a stigma, it has a perception to it. Just like with anything really. And what's worrying, or what did worry me, is that it's possible for people to manipulate you, and if you're easily confused, like I can imagine some people that do have severe mental illness, their cognitive abilities have deteriorated quite a lot. So it's more easily to easily it's more it's it's more they are more easily manipulated. They are vulnerable like that because they cannot judge from or discriminate from right or wrong. Well, they can, but like they can't judge the nuance, in people's behavior or intentions. Okay. I now have the added incentive of having life insurance, so my daughter gets 16 grand if I die. Null and void in a certain way of death. Long story regarding my daughter, very painful too and personal. I found her in 2019 and she's 34 in December. Knew she was mine from the day she was born, not adopted, just shit happened, such as life. Obviously didn't help my mental health issue. Wow. Bastard. I don't know what to say to that. Wow. It's good that you found her. It's good that you found that you have like a sibling. Not a sibling, I meant a daughter. That you have a legacy of some sort. Because there are families that know each other and then they sort of just drift apart and they don't want to know each other. They don't want to know anyone. Yeah. I know I had a friend at university who was creating a family tree. She was like a private investigator. It's so funny because she found members of her extended family, her ancestry that even her parents didn't know about. I don't know if you do that like the heritage thing or like the family tree thing or who do you think you are? There used to be a program called Who Do You Think You Are? Yeah. Next comment is jaundice is a discoloring of the skin, may usually yellow. My mum had it when she was younger, and means once you've had it, you can never donate blood. That's quite scary. That is jaundice. Yeah, I've replied to that. Wow, it did sound familiar to me. Also, appreciate all the comments you have made here. There's a lot to unpack. Yeah, there is a lot to unpack. Uh, Keith's replied, "Oh, my mental health has just made me go downhill, mate. If anything, I need to do is actually pack to go back home to Scotland next year. Surprised you don't actually get on ESA or PIPs with your depression, mental health. Or so many people who deserve it, and so many scroungers who shouldn't be getting it. My body is seriously fucked. Did a lot of hard work and hard jobs, so why shouldn't I get something back from the system?" That's valid. That's valid because that is valid because like in some this is different from like being entitled. This is totally different from being like thinking that the world owes you something and being bitter for it when you've done nothing to contribute to society. I guess it's different from like the current cultural attitude towards the world of like being entitled and all that. But I guess it's a brutal. It's quite brutal to acknowledge or even admit this, but you have to save yourself. Um, my sister used to tell me this that you're born alone, you live alone, and you die alone, which is you can say that's pessimistic or whatever, but like it is true. Like you sort of spend people sort of just go in and out of your life, like gravity fluctuating. So if you're an asteroid or a comet or something like that, and something bigger comes along with a much larger gravitational field, it pulls away the things flying around you, so you're alone. And then you eventually find something that with a smaller gravitational field than you, and then you end up um absorbing them, not absorbing them, but like attracting them. Yeah. Um, what else was I gonna say? Yeah, it was about not being in touch. Well, it's not even that, but um, I think I'll have to come back to that one. I've kind of lost track of my thoughts. So weird how one of the side effects of taking an antidepressant is depression. That is weird. That is weird. I guess it is short term because like once you start the meds, like for a few weeks it'll exacerbate the symptoms and on what you're feeling and whatnot. Yeah, I said, oh, by the way, you're on my TV, lol, and I'm like I do with H letting the videos run through and hitting like on my phone while I watch on TV. You watch me on TV, fuck it hell. Okay. Um. Yeah, I think I said in the other video like I know someone who was epileptic and their epilepsy got worse because of the medication being used to treat epilepsy. But they had to find the correct dosage and the correct combination of not just their epileptic medication, but like painkillers as well. Next comment is I'm leaving way too many comments, but the more I hear, the more I emphasize with you. Yeah, you get moved from pillar to post, and old expression. You'll have to excuse it, excuse it. It's my age and the generation I grew up around. There's nothing to excuse. Like, I love expressions and moral maxims and all that. So have a hard time as you're having to re-explain yourself every time. Yes, my GP's was and still is sometimes a nightmare as never saw the same doctor twice in a row. So like you said, you've got 10 minutes to get to your point, get your point across, which if you're having to restart doesn't help. I'm an outpatient basically because of my belief system. I have none, so that stops me doing anything. To use the wording to use the wording do anything silly is actually stupid because it isn't silly, it's a serious thing. Plus I now have some positives in life to stop me, and I mentioned either in a comment or on this or other video, I don't like being confined, so that stops me going out and wasting people. I don't like being yeah, I read that correctly, so that. And yeah, yes, thanks to being an ex-serviceman and the time 80s, I was in the army. It makes it easy. Yeah, what was coming back to the depression thing? Like, the thing about that is you have to find another reason to live. So this is not recommended. I don't think anybody will recommend this. Is like is to go onto Google and type in how to kill yourself or how to commit suicide on Google. Um but I did that. But what happened was I ended up coming across websites on how to get help on suicide prevention, and this was when I was 16, 17 years old. This was fucking ages ago. Yeah, so I guess in hindsight, it's just like dumb luck. I'm just sort of like blundered along. But one of the things is like if you don't live for yourself in that situation, you gotta find something other than yourself to live for, something that's worth waking up for in the morning. And sometimes that is a family member. And sometimes that's like a dream or an ambition that you want to change something. Regardless of how selfish or I guess there is within reason of like how depraved or selfish it can be, because you can't abuse other people or hurt other people. Suicide and assisted suicide is quite a controversial, not controversial, but it's too complex a topic to just even talk about from one side. I don't know if you know about this, but there was someone in India who sued his parents for giving birth to him. Now the interesting thing about this is his parents are both lawyers. Oh, sorry, I have to stop.